Thanks for having me out today. I have a unique talk that I'm excited about because I haven't really had the opportunity to share it as much as I'd like. A lot of times my talks are geared and centered on corporate social responsibility, which is what he was just talking about. Who knows about corporate social responsibility and what that is? So CSR is the relationship between a nonprofit entity, a for-profit entity, and the community, right? So I'm usually very focused on that. But today I have the unique opportunity to speak in front of you because my lovely wife and our founder wasn't able to be here today. And I get to pick up her talk. So I'm actually excited about that because I haven't really spoken on this before. I wanted to start by telling you a little bit about my childhood, though. It was my wife's dream. Sorry, I also got off the airplane sick on Thursday, so I haven't been sick in 5 years. Living vegan. My wife's dream, Ellie's dream, was from the time she was 7 years old, was to establish a gentle barn. And there's not a lot of people out there that can say that they had their dream from 7 years old and be able to say that they came through it and fulfilled it, and it's a living, breathing thing now. So it's pretty impressive. But for me, it was very similar. Animals saved me as a child. I had a very abusive childhood. My stepfather was one of the most abusive people I've ever known. And he would take every opportunity he could to take advantage of the opportunity as a child to beat me up. And there were so many times and so many scenarios and so many situations where the animals saved me. The one that I wanted to tell you about is a horse, and her name was Gato. And if any of you know Spanish, that's the Spanish word for cat. And she was just like that. If you know about cats, you know that they're somewhat stealth, and they're somewhat protective, and they're somewhat standoffish, and they're somewhat, it was just her. It was just the makeup of who she was. And my stepfather, was getting worse and worse and more abusive. He was on lithium and all kinds of medications, and it got to a point where it just wasn't safe anymore. And I was on the way out. I was going to be going back to California. This was in Baltimore. I was going to be going back to California to live with my father. But in the meantime, this time, he meant business. And I ran away, and I ran to the stables. And when I got to the stables, he was chasing me. And I found the quickest hiding place I could possibly find. And I kind of dove into one of the stalls. And it was one of those half doors, sort of like Dutch doors, where the half on the top was open, but the bottom was closed. And so I closed it behind me, and this was Gato's stall. And Gato, I startled Gato when I went in, but she really quickly realized what was happening. She realized he was coming, and he blasted into the barn and screamed out, "Where are you? I'm going to find you, and if you don't come out, it's going to be worse," kind of thing. And all the pigeons in the place flipped out and took off, and it was a really scary moment. But I was kind of hiding down in the corner behind that door. And right when that happened, Gato went up in the air, kicked her feet, and came down over me and stood there. And there was no way he was thinking that there was an animal, that I was underneath this crazy animal that just reared up in the air. But I was. And she saved me. And she protected me in that moment. And for a 15-year-old, I think I was 16 years old, for a 16-year-old boy in that scenario, it was life or death. So from that period on, I had a different connection with animals. I had been saved in different times in my life up until then, but never like that. That was so clear. And the minute that he left, she walked away and went and just started eating her food. But I knew that she was mothering me. So years went by. I've always been connected to animals. I've always had them in my life in some way, shape, or form. But I wanted something more. And I had been doing a lot of volunteering and things like that, where I was reaching out to different nonprofit organizations and things like that. But my stepdaughter at the time had gone to volunteer over at the Gentle Barn. And she had begged me to come with her and go check it out. And Honestly, I was a little nervous to go because I'm really motivated to help animals, and I knew if I went there, I was probably going to be locked in, you know. And but I went there, and it was as amazing as I thought it was going to be. I walked in the door, in the gate, and when I walked back there, it was like I walked into my home. And this was 2001. The Gentle Barn had been started in 1999. And I came in as a volunteer and started helping my stepdaughter and started getting involved. And I realized something about myself. I realized that all of that support, all those amazing things that animals had done for me, I put to the wayside. And I let my experiences in my life somewhat take over. So I wasn't very kind. I wasn't very gentle. I was a salesman. I was very, aggressive in sales. And I don't think I was horrible or anything, but I certainly let go of that part of my life. And getting involved with the Gentle Barn really meant something to me. And the Gentle Barn had some really amazing things. The Gentle Barn had relationships with animals, but also relationships with children, which is something that I really wanted to express, that relationship with an animal and a child could really save that kid, could really give that kid an opportunity to grow in their life and to see what I had seen back then. So if you don't know about the Gentle Barn, does anybody not know Gentle Barn? Who knows about the Gentle Barn? Okay, good. Well, the Gentle Barn is an animal sanctuary. We have 180 animals rescued from abuse and neglect and slaughter. We work with inner city at-risk and special needs children. And that's kind of like our during the week program. And then on the weekends, we're open to the public to come in to experience the animals. And it's just what it is. It's the Gentle Barn. So we're there hugging cows and, lap turkeys, which is, turkey coming and snuggling into your lap. And that's our Thanksgiving event, is all about that. We basically take the stories of the animals and the plight that they've gone through, the experiences that they've had, and connect it with the plight and story of children that are coming in. And when we connect those stories together, there's an amazing healing that happens, because that kid realizes that if that animal has the same story I do and has been able to heal from the bad experiences that they've gone through, well, so could I. And so that's been the sort of foundation to what we do. So we take animals, we rehabilitate them. We take children, we rehabilitate them with the animals. And they both help each other. And it's pretty amazing. And I venture to say that we're probably one of the only sanctuaries that is doing just that. There's riding, places that bring, children out to put them on a horse. We don't believe in taking a horse into captivity. So the only time we'll ride a horse is if we have to take them back to the scene of the crime, to get them through something that they're suffering in before we retire them, because we don't want them. Sorry. We don't want the horses to hold on to an abuse. We want them to let it go before they retire. So it's the only time we do any kind of riding. So, and also in our program, we don't want to take a child who's in a dominant position as a gang member or whatever they are to be on a horse in a dominant position. We want them below the horse and learning from the horse and learning from that experience. So, kids and animals. And I will say, and I don't know if anybody here is running a sanctuary or the child aspect to what we do is something that really supports the ability to bring in funds for our organization. It's definitely bringing in a whole separate line, an avenue of income that normally you wouldn't have. So, we're going through our life. We're running this, this organization. Things are good, things are bad, but we always talked about expanding. We didn't exactly know how it would happen until one day we got a phone call about a cow named Dudley. Who knows Dudley? Okay. Dudley is a steer who had gotten into an accident and had his foot severed. And when he had his foot severed, the rancher didn't know what to do. and kind of kept him in the pasture for a long time, about 10 months, without really any professional care. Well, we were approached by someone who knew the man that had this cow, and were asked to get involved. And the kind of way that we work, a lot of people ask us, how do you choose which animals you work with and which animals you don't? And the answer to that is we work with the animals that cross our path. And if that animal is in Tennessee or that animal is in California, Oregon, wherever, we're going to go and try and support that animal because that animal crossed our path. So Dudley, we went, and just so you know, on our website you can find his story. We brought a filmmaker with us. And so we have about a 15-minute movie that was made about him and his story. And but it was an amazing experience. Here this animal was completely unable to walk in this pasture. We took him, we brought him to, it turned out that at University of Tennessee in Knoxville was the leading expert in amputations in cattle, which I don't think many people even think is something that exists out there as somebody who's specializes in amputating, cattle's feet. But we found him. And ironically in Tennessee. And so he was in Nashville and they were in Knoxville. So we brought the Dudley to the university there, and we went through about a 6-month period of time of healing him. And now you can see Dudley, he's running in the pasture. I mean, he's just really amazing guy. And I'm very, very close friends with him. And it's just been an amazing experience. But that was why we chose to open our second location in Tennessee. And so it's been an incredible experience to have two organizations, now being a national organization, being able to use some of the things that we've known for the California location to really make this second location thrive. It's been incredible. So when we heard about this cow named Redbox, who knows who Redbox is? Redbox is a steer that looked identical to Dudley, that we got a phone call about from Oregon that was part of the FFA program. I assume you all know what FFA is, Future Farmers of America. We were approached to step in and try and help him not be slaughtered. Now, Redbox had a unique situation where he was in this school and was being loved by these kids. And the kids wrote an article in the Statesman Journal that this was the sweetest, kindest, most amazing cow I've ever seen. He's changed all of our lives. He's saved our relationships with some students. He's done all this amazing stuff. So when we kill him, it's going to be really great because we're going to feed the, through a food bank, we're going to feed the hungry. And we all thought, wow, here's this cow that's changed the lives of these kids, and that cow's future is to be slaughtered and eaten. It didn't seem right. Not to mention the fact that he had all kinds of training, and he would have been a great first cow for us to potentially open a gentle barn here. So we tried to work with the school. We tried to call. They wouldn't take our calls. And this is kind of leading me to the point of my talk with you today. We found out that the reason that they wouldn't take my calls when I came to Oregon, because they wouldn't talk to me. So I said, I looked at my wife and I said, are we in this one? I mean, are we all the way in? What are we doing here? And she said, yeah, we got to save this cow. I mean, he's an amazing being. He's got publicity about him that made him special, and the kids love him, and, we can't let him die. So I went to the school, and the first experience I had was I went into the FFA classroom. Now, I don't know if any of you have had experiences with this kind of a group of people, but they're pretty militant, and they were very particular about the fact that this animal was going to be slaughtered. And I said, well, we're willing to offer anything. I mean, what do you need to not make this happen? And she said, there's nothing that you have. And I said, well, I'm not going to give up that easily. I'm going to go talk to the principal. So I went to talk to the principal. He wouldn't see me. He wouldn't take my calls. He wouldn't get involved at all. And then I found out why. The reason he wouldn't take my phone calls was because he had received hundreds of threatening hate mail, calls, everything. They threatened his life. And he said, it put a really sour, bad taste in my mouth about vegan people. And I said, well, I mean, I'm not approaching you that way. I mean, you have to appreciate my email was very kind and, open to dialogue and, things like that. And he said, yeah, but the people before you ruined it. And I thought, wow, that's how we're showing up. That's how we're showing up. We're showing up like the people that everybody's going to hate. And is there a place for that? Yeah, sure. PETA, Mercy for Animals, all these companies, all these, nonprofit organizations that are out there to, put it in your face. But is that the time? Is that the place? Is that the message that we're trying to give? So who's an activist? And who's vegan? Wow, that's so awesome. I love that almost all of you have raised your hand. We have a responsibility. We have a job. Our job, living a compassionate life, is to always be living a compassionate life and to always be showing people how compassionate we are. Now, is there a time and is there a place to protest? Well, heck yeah. I've done it. Circuses, all kinds of stuff. But you can't go and talk to Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. You can't. And even if you could, what are you going to do? Take 6 elephants? You got to stop people from going. So if you're going to go out there and shout from a bullhorn that's, don't go into this place because we think it's wrong, well, that's activism. That's what you got to do. But if you've got a cow that's about to be slaughtered and you're trying to stop that process and you call with aggression and threats and negativity, I wonder how we're ever going to be received as valuable, as contributing. So I guess my message today, and I want to talk a little bit more about that compassionate side of things, is that we have to learn to hold our tongues. We have to learn to not be judgmental. We have to know that the people who are around us who are not vegan, they're learning, they're on their path. We have neighbors. I was just talking to, I don't know if you know some of the different organizations here. I'm imagining you do, but I was talking to some of the different sanctuaries. They all came up to introduce themselves. And they were telling me, we've got neighbors, they're so horrible to us, and, we've got all these things going on that it's negative and it's dark and it's this and it's that. And I'm thinking, that's what you're bringing to VegFest? That's what you're bringing to the first time you're meeting me? You're just asking for more. We need to let that go. We need to bask in the light. You understand the magnitude of the growth that we've had over the last 10 years? I walked into the Gentle Barn and I walked out vegan. I ate meat my whole life. I was born Orthodox Jewish. I was with family that, brisket, chicken, all this stuff was every day. I know what it's like. But I walked into that place and that was my aha moment. You all know yours. And when I walked in and I walked out that way, it changed my life forever. Because I knew that it would never be okay again. It would never be okay again. And my first experience with it, I had the aha moment because I made friends with a chicken. His name was Mr. Olafson. God damn that guy. God, it's so easy to be, ignorance is bliss, right? But he every time I came to the Gentle Barn, he would run up to me and he would spread his wings like this to pick, and what chicken does that? Spread his wings to pick him up. But if I didn't pick him up, he would peck at my legs until I did. And one day, after about a month, I went to the Gentle Barn and we couldn't find him. And every time I went in, he would come running. And to make a long story short, we soon figured out that he was very good friends with the pigs. We had 2 very large farm pigs. And he used to sleep on top of them. And apparently he rolled off and the pig crushed him. He weighed 1,000 pounds, or 1,200 pounds. And I had never experienced loss like that before. My grandfather had passed away, but I was young. I had never experienced anyone dying that was my best friend, my friend. And it ruined me. And that moment, that was it for me. And I went into a market. I won't tell you the name. No, I'm kidding. It was, I went into, I think it was Ralph's. And when I went into Ralph's, the rotisserie was there. And that was the first time that I looked at chickens as body parts, as humans, as, I don't know, humans isn't the right word, but animals. We're all animals. And I stood there and just wept, for the loss of my friend Ellie thought I was nuts. My wife thought I was nuts. We weren't married at the time. And I was just so angry by it, that I was like, oh, just bury the chicken already, it's no big deal, let's just put him in the ground. But I was hiding my feelings. I was crushed, but I was on my path. And what I remember most about Ellie is she didn't judge me. I didn't feel judged because I ate meat. I didn't feel judged because of my process. I didn't feel hated because of who I was or what I did. I was a good person. I was volunteering my time. I was picking up produce. I was helping clean up the barnyard for these animals that made a difference in the world. But I was still eating meat in the beginning. But she never judged me. And I remember that so deeply now. These people that we come in contact with, and I mean, who sees it as their job and their mission in life to share this message? So we have to find that way. We have to find that balance. I mean, who's tried to convince their parents to be vegan? I don't know. The ones that laugh, they kind of know. You can't convince your parents to do a dang thing, But you can put the message out there. But you're not going to hate them because of their choice in what they eat. We have to find a way to deliver the message. We talk about something in the industry called compassion fatigue. Who's heard of that? Compassion fatigue is something very important because one of the things that happens in compassion fatigue is you have a rescuer. You have somebody who's so dedicated. But then what compassion fatigue does is it makes you start losing the care of what you're doing. And I mean, what good are we if we are vegan people, out there and have no more compassion for what we're doing? And by the way, it's not something that you're going to know about first. Someone else is going to see it in you first. So what happened with Redbox? So I connected with the principal finally, and I had several dialogues with him. And I said, we got to save this cow. This cow, I want you to know what I'm going to offer you. I'm going to offer you $20,000 because we had a donor who was willing to help us. I'm going to offer you $20,000 to fix your greenhouse. They had a greenhouse that was basically falling down, and they really wanted to fix it. I'm going to offer you $20,000 to fix your greenhouse. We're going to take this cow in and give him a life at the Gentle Barn that will open in Oregon for the rest of his life. And every year that he's alive, we'll donate twice as much food as you would have gotten from him to the food bank. All of your students can come and volunteer at the Gentle Barn and see him and meet him. The new ones can meet him. The old ones can come and see him. Please let this happen. So he said, I'm going to go and take it to the kids. I appreciate the way you've approached me, but I can't make this decision. I've barely been involved with it. I will take it to the kids and let them decide. And I thought, well, this is a done deal, right? What kid is going to vote to kill the animal? They're going to vote to give us the animal, right? $20,000. Future farmers of America, right? We want to make money for our animals, right? $20,000 for one cow, for me, that's nothing. But for them, that's 10 times what they would get. But they said no. Why? Why would these students, 16 to 18 years old, choose to kill the cow? Well, they said that the reason that they chose that was because they wanted to go through with what they promised the community. They promised the community that they were going to feed the homeless shelter and that they were taking in this money and support from the community to do that. And I said, well, wait a minute. We're going to give the community 15 years, however long he lives, of food. How can you argue that? And basically it came down to the FFA. The FFA decided that they couldn't allow the Gentle Barn or any other sanctuary to tarnish the good work they do teaching kids how to raise their meat. I feel like letting you sit in that for a minute. But it was devastating. And I think that a majority of it came down to timing. I think that they had such a bad taste in their mouth, the way that they were treated by the vegan community and activist community, that they just didn't care anymore. They thought we were crazy. Why would you want this cow? Why do you care so much for this cow? Compassion fatigue. It's an incredible thing. It makes us lash out at the people who are trying to do the same work that we're doing, or to people who are struggling in their lives to make better choices. How many people are really in their lives trying to have better health? You know, I think our planet is looking at that. I think we're all trying to figure it out. We all want to live longer. We all want to feel healthier. We all want to have those kinds of successes. And I think that, you know, these studies that are coming out, I mean, it causes cancer, you know? I mean, we've got a study that shows that processed meat causes the same cancer as a cigarette. Wow, that's insane. I can't wait for the Surgeon General's slap, on there on the meat, right? Of Surgeon General's warning, this product, contains cancerous items or whatever. That's going to be an amazing moment. But they're going to start seeing that, and they probably already are, people who don't have the consciousness right now to make that choice or the will to make that choice. And we have to be there for them. We can't shame them. We can't should them. We can't convince them. You can't do it. You can show them a movie. You can show them a movie if they're willing to watch it. I took my son to the slaughterhouse. What do you think he thought of that? That was, I go into these factory farms, and I've seen my share. If I never did it again, I'd be fine. But he started eating dairy, and I said, eat meat, but don't eat dairy. And he's like, well, I won't eat meat. And I said, well, why? Well, it's too cruel. And I said, you have no idea. Let's go. And I took him to a dairy farm. But who's going to really do that? I mean, you don't have a lot of people out there that are going to do that. So we have to find the way. We have to find the way to be compassionate. So progress, right? We have to look at progress. We have to see the light. We have to see the work we've done. Who's done the work? You guys are all activists back there. Have you been out there? Have you done protests? Have you helped your friends choose a vegan lifestyle? Have they done it? Have you basked in that? Have you sat there and looked at it and went, wow, I really made a great difference there. Look at the light, 13 countries won't allow products to be tested on now. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, look at Israel. Israel's something at like 10% vegan. We have huge successes. New Zealand deemed that animals are sentient beings. I mean, that's progress. Are we joyous about it? Are we jumping for joy that look at the successes we've had? Because that's what brings more light. Focusing on light brings more light. Look at any of our great, founding people in our Martin Luther King or Gandhi or all these people, they all say the same thing: light brings light. Darkness does not bring light. I think that, my life has been an amazing experience. I've had the opportunity to run a sanctuary for 15 years. I took it from a little $12,000 a year organization in Tarzana, California, on a little half an acre, farm, and brought it to, 2 locations and, multimillion-dollar organization. But the thing about it is up until recently, I never looked at it like that. I never looked at wow. I was just caught in the moment of it. Caught in the, who am I going to turn vegan next? Because that's the underlying message in the Gentle Barn. So now, Redbox, right? Redbox didn't work. But the thing about Redbox is it lit a fire under our ass that we're going to open in Oregon. And that's going to be our 3rd location. And we're going to tell his story. Because whether or not he's alive, he's still a being that's there. And we're able to share his message. And we're able to make change in the community. Our hope for the community is that we can be that light. That we can show other sanctuaries and other people doing the good work. And we're doing amazing work. That you can do it in a way that isn't shaming and isn't making somebody wrong for what they're doing, but showing them the path in which we're going and what we're doing and hoping that they make that choice. And I don't mind, of course, the whole idea of, like I said, show them a video, show them, do the protest, do all those things. But that person that approaches you at a protest and seems angry, I'll tell you a quick story. We were approached by PETA very early on in my time at Gentle Barn. I think I'd been there for a year. And PETA said, we're all about to go out and do a protest in front of Wolfgang Puck. And we're going to demand that they take veal off the menu. And we said, wow, we're in, And we went over to the Wolfgang Puck near us in California, in Los Angeles area, and we parked in front, and we walked into the manager, and we said, hey, just so you know, we're going to be here to protest veal being on the menu. And we thought, we're going to get all resistance or whatever. She went, oh my God, thank you so much. We hate that veal's on the menu. And I went, oh my God, what an amazing person, right? So she said, if you need the bathroom or you need some water or whatever, come on in. And we're like, what just happened? So while we were out there, all we were doing was taking a little card and we said, if you agree with the fact that veal should be off the menu, please give this to your server. That's it. So, people would walk by and we had a little sign or whatever, and they'd walk over and we'd give them the card and say, hey, if you don't agree with veal being on the menu, please give the server this card. And I swear to you, 90% of the people said, I'm ordering double. I wouldn't have ordered veal, when I was walking up, I didn't even have the idea I would order veal, but now I'm going to order it. And we were like, what just happened? And there was this man, he was walking by with his wife on his arm, and he had his 2 older daughters behind him, and he said the same thing. He said, I'm going to order double veal this time. And she looked back and she said, I'm so sorry, we don't even eat veal. I don't know what he's talking about. But I think it was in the delivery. I think it was us telling them what to do. And I think that they were just shutting down. I had to take Ellie home because if any of you have ever known my wife, there was one guy, he was as big as a tank. I'm a big guy, And by the way, this is a vegan that's doing vegan for compassion, not for health. Well, I want to be healthy, and I don't drink coffee. I take algae every day. All those different things. But come on, But I'm a big guy, right? This guy was, he was a tank, and Ellie walked up to him and said, hey, we're here to protest veal, whatever. And he said, I'm going to order double, and screw you for being out here and telling us what to do. And she said, well, happy heart attack, and he just kept walking off. I said, you need to go home, Anyway, I want to just end with something that I found, that inside every moment, progress seems so slow. But, and if any of you know this already, progress is happening, and we'll have a gentle world in our lifetime if we believe in it. Progress and finding a gentle way, like the gentle barn. Progress will be won by showing the light, your light, to the world. Just the fact that you live in an apartment or a house in a community, and you bring that light into that community, into that townhouse, into that, apartment complex, just the fact that you're there living a compassionate vegan lifestyle changes things, even if you can't see it. It's what I believe. Thank you. I'm certainly here for any kind of questions in any area about sanctuaries, about running one, about lifestyle, about anything. Yes, you in the front. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
How does all the funding happen? How do you guys get that? I don't understand the business aspect. Where do you guys get all your funds from?
Thank you. The question was about funding and how we raise money for the organization. Work your butt off. We work very hard to cover a lot of different areas where funding can come in. We write grants. We work with family foundations, which you have to find. We have $5 donations that matter because the big saying, right, is not to have all of your pretend eggs in one basket, right? So you want to have as many donors as you possibly can instead of one big donor, although the big donors are nice. So we do small things, memberships and reoccurring monthly donations, and we're open to the public on the weekends so people can come out and make a donation to come in. So many different ways.
Have you visited any of the sanctuaries that are here in Oregon? Have you been able to go out to any of them?
I haven't. I've spoken with many of them, actually several times. Lighthouse, who I guess had gone through some issues recently, but they seem like they're doing okay now. As we've been talking a lot, they were part of my introduction to the Red Box scenario. Our goal in coming into Portland is to, or into Oregon, wherever we end up, hopefully 45 minutes or so, away from, or within 45 minutes of Portland, is to enhance the whole, sanctuary community. So I will be going and meeting with them.
Because you mentioned that nobody had a children's program where they reached out to children, but actually all of them.
No, I wasn't saying that they didn't reach out to children. I was saying in the way that we did it, that we're taking the stories of the animals and connecting them with the stories of the children, specifically in inner city at-risk and special needs. The different organizations that I've met here, and they're doing amazing work, I don't mean to take away from them at all, have field trips and tours and showing children the animals and things like that, for sure. But I haven't met anyone that does the work the way that we do it. Unless you know someone, I'd be more than happy to hear it. I haven't met them yet, but we want to find them. Well, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So the farm sanctuary model did essentially, I grew up on a farm as a kid, so to support the animals and the variety of animals, is there an acreage size, number of buildings? I mean, when you're looking for a site, what do you search for? Do you want well water? Do you want, what do you look for?
Well, that's a very good question, yeah. Right.
What's the criteria? And then for those of us that have this airy fairy dream someday to do such a thing,
Well, so the questions, did everybody hear the question? The question was how we find a location and size and what's important. I'll tell you this. In California, we made a mistake. We got too big, too fast. And not too fast, but just we got too big, bigger than our model. Our model is really only supposed to be, 20, 30 animals that, enough of each species of animals so that we can do our work. Having 26 horses, is a huge undertaking. Having, 50 cows is a big deal. Do we need 50 cows to do our work? Of course not. They crossed our path. We saved them. The answer to your question is the way that we did it in Tennessee, so our second location, was the right way. It's 12 acres. We probably won't use all of it, maybe eventually. We have, I think, 18 animals now there. But it's running just as strong and just as well as the California location with 150 animals.
Did you have to acquire additional acreage as you expanded in California?
We did. So we have a 15-acre property about 10 minutes up the road where we use that for our quarantine, and we also use that for overage in quantity of animals. But like I said, our model is to not be that big. You could have a gentle barn of your own with a few animals that you take into schools. The teaching compassion, teaching humane, any kind of humane education. What do you need, a chicken? Our thing is hugging a cow, so we definitely want to have that. But at the gentle barn's main property, and we have more horses than we probably should, just in our work. But on the gentle barn's main property, I think we have 6 cows on that property, and that's it. And we have 500 people that'll come in on a Saturday. On a Sunday there.
How big is your main property?
6 acres.
6 acres, and then you have 15 acres.
Right. But people don't go up to the 15-acre one unless they're doing a private tour.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I was wondering, do you ever run into roadblocks like working with kids? Like, because you're saying like kind of the underlying message is like veganism and compassion to animals. Do you ever have people that are like, I don't want our kids to go there because you have an agenda?
Nope. We don't say that. That's, I guess, what I'm talking about. We've tried to be a petting zoo, for lack of better explanation. We want people to come there and meet their meat. We want them to come and show up and learn about the animals and ask questions and love them on their path and their journey. We don't put things out there that say, come visit the gentle barn and learn how to be a vegan. We don't do that. When they're there, we'll smack them around a little bit. But we're trying to come from a path of kindness, and that they don't know. I didn't know. What if I walked into the gentle barn and Ellie said, oh, you're a fucking meat eater? Get the hell out of do you see we had a volunteer one time that slapped our one of our pigs, Susie Q, on the butt and went, there's your bacon. We're going, whoa, what happened? But people don't react well to that, and not to mention the fact I didn't like that he hit our pig. But he was an activist, and he was going to show those people that they couldn't leave this place without being a vegan, and what does PETA study show? 12 different experiences before someone will make that kind of a choice. Maybe we're step 1. Maybe we're step 6. I don't know. We try and handle as many as we can in our place. So they come in and they hear me talk when they walk in, unless I'm here. They hear me talk when they walk in, and I talk about living a compassionate life. They hear Ellie talk in the amphitheater about, if you'd like to find out more about choosing a plant-based diet, we have these papers here for you. They can buy forks over knives in the store. They can hug a cow. They can give a pig a tummy rub. They can, all those things. So we're hoping that they're getting, a number of those experiences when they walk in the door. But we might not be the last one. Go ahead.
When I was growing up in Northern California suburbs, my only exposure to farm animals was once when a truck came to the elementary school taking youth with different challenging backgrounds and exposing them to the gentle barn, what type of things do you hear about exposure? What types of changes do you learn about within these children?
Well, I want to tell you, thank you for your question. Did everybody hear his question? Yeah. I want to tell you that we have very few experiences with children who come to the Gentle Barn that don't work. So we've had hardened, I'm talking about kids who have killed people. They've come out to the Gentle Barn. They're incarcerated because they, did whatever they did. And they walk in like this, and after half an hour, they walk in like that, right? They walk in with their pants down and they're doing this kind of thing, right? By the end of the thing, they're holding a chicken and running with their pants up. And I can tell you that animals, it happened to me. Animals can change you, and they change these kids. They change them on the spot. And it's amazing to watch. It's amazing to watch. And I'm going to try and work with some of the sanctuaries to adopt more of that because those kids are our advocates. They get out of there and they go into South Central Los Angeles and they tell their friends, oh, you going to eat that? It's unbelievable. We do a Christmas event every year, 5 years now, to give something back to the community of children that come to the Gentle Barn from South Central Los Angeles. Everybody know South Central? So not the place you want to hang out at night, right? And these kids are living in Watts. They're living in the projects. They have nothing. They have nothing. And we go down there and we bring Christmas to them. We bring the holiday to them, whatever. And you should hear what they say. You should hear what they say. They're so passionate about it. And they are the ones that are going to make the change. It's hard to change an adult. It's hard. It's pretty dang easy to change a kid. Please. Oh. He's just go ahead.
I may have talked about this before, but before I walked in. But why do you think PETA doesn't quite get the message? A lot of times they just do this hidden over the head of the hammer type stuff. Such as when this girl got Ebola for hunting, and they sent her this care package, and just really judgmental. We hope you learn your lesson and all that.
Yeah. You want me to explain PETA? I'm very close with PETA. I think that there's three ways. I think there's education, I think that there's activism, and I think that there's legislation. Some people believe the Malcolm X way is the way to go. I don't think Malcolm X had the same impact that Martin Luther King had. But they believe in an aggressive, in-your-face, and that's a publicity stunt, right? Because that's going to get out there, and yeah, but that's what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to down PETA because I think that they do some good things, a lot of good things, but that style is what I'm not for. I'm for we're compassionate people. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we choose the lifestyle that we're doing it. And I can guarantee you most of the people in this room aren't doing it because of their health. We're doing it because we love animals, and humans are animals. And they're the stupidest animals out there. We're making all kinds of ridiculous choices. But if you see the light, if you see the way, we have to act on that. And we have to do it in a gentle, compassionate way. And I think PETA, I think PETA's got a place in our world. But I think some of the choices that they make aren't the right ones. But I think that they make a lot of good ones too. We could spend probably a couple hours on PETA. I think that it also depends on what part of the world you're in. There's so many different members of PETA that are doing things on their own, and representing in the way that they represent. And did that come from corporate? I don't even know. Maybe it came from some activist, I don't know. I like some of the stuff that they do though with like Alicia Silverstone and some of those celebrities and, you know, doing those naked, you know, photos. I mean, I think our society really responds to that kind of stuff, you know.
Kids were great too.
And their starter kits, we give their starter kits out all the time. I love their starter kits. So that's what I'm saying. I think that they have a style about them that, you know, that's probably 20% of what they do that's really negative. And that's their choice, you know. But I think a solid 75, 80% of what they're doing is really impactful, especially in the school systems.
I like your comment about, you said it might take whatever, 12 exposures or times that someone they'll have their aha moment.
Well, that's a PETA thing, yeah.
Right, but it's interesting that then you're saying that they also have this in your face, because I think it takes one negative experience like that, people will dig in their heels and say, I'm never gonna look at this again.
PTSD shows up in a lot of ways. My daughter, I have, Ellie and I have 3 kids, one from each of our past marriages and then one together. I wouldn't show some of those things to my 10-year-old. And she knows, I mean, believe me, she knows, but I wouldn't show it to her. I mean, I've seen it in person. And by the way, once you see it in person, it's take a video and throw that out the, you know. But you're right. You're right. However, if it had been 10 times that they'd been exposed to something, and then that kind of a thing comes in and it just jogs them, you know, that can happen too. You know, you can watch any of the video, any kid could watch our videos. You know, I mean, there might be some sad times and things like that, but we don't put things out there that are aggressive. You know, the Karma's reunion. Karma is a cow that I rescued from the backyard butcher. And I don't know if you know about the backyard butcher in LA that we dealt with, but you know, he went to jail for a couple years and he was doing some crazy stuff. But this cow, she was separated from her calf and we didn't know, and she was screaming, and we ended up, but Karma's reunion's on our YouTube, and all of a sudden it's at 2.5 million views, you know, because it's not in a way that is offensive. It's a way that people can learn and hear. Sorry, I know that you had something else.
Oh, I was just curious, I do know your animals because I follow them with you.
Yeah,
And,
thanks.
But you said you can hug them and touch them, so, like, did Dudley come to you devoted, or do you dehorn them? Because
No, he did not have horns. Dudley?
Right,
Dudley did not have horns.
but for people to be able to hug.
Oh, I hug my horned cows all the time.
They're not so huggable.
I hug my horny cows. We have 20 horned cows, and you can hug any one of them
And you let the public hug them?
on a private tour, not in our open to the public Sunday area. No horns. Yeah, that's not gourded by a cow because he wants to play with you. We have a cow. Are we okay on time? Okay. We just have a few more minutes. We have a cow that's probably 3,000 pounds, and his thing is to play with Ellie and run after her. And you know, you never saw her run faster. But anyway, but he doesn't have any horns. Yeah.
What about, I came here from the Midwest, and when I go back home, sometimes I'm like looking for sanctuaries now that I know that there are, you know, a bunch out here in California and things like that, and there's like nothing. And
In the Midwest.
yeah.
Like where?
Like Chicago area. I think there's maybe one in Wisconsin, but.
We actually have an offer of land in Wisconsin where we've been looking. You're right. I think climate plays a lot in that. It's so cold. You know, you'd pretty much be almost closed down for 4 or 5 months of the year. I think that's been a little scary for people to start a sanctuary. We've been dealing with a woman who wanted to just give us her place, and it was actually in pretty good location, but we just don't know it. You know, we have to go learn it. But we ended up in Tennessee first, but you're right. I think that there's definite need there, and our intention is to open 50 states, so we're trying. Last question? Yes.
So, I like your approach in talking about compassion.
Yes.
My question is, how do you bring folks who maybe, like ex-vegans or who have fallen out of the vegan lifestyle or diet or following. How do you bring them back to a compassionate place and have them reconnect with what made them become vegan in the first place?
Well, that's a really good question. Did everybody hear his question? How to bring a vegan who's gone kind of off track back to being a vegan?
Yeah.
First of all, I would say we have a lot. We deal with that a lot. And typically it's someone who health-wise didn't do well. Is that your experience also? You know, my doctor said that, you know, I'm not doing well because I needed all this iron and, you know, whatever. And typically it's education. You know, typically people are really lacking in knowledge as to how to get all of those proteins and, you know, iron and different things like that. That's one version of it. So we work with them to understand it better. And also, you know, I don't know if you all know this, but Sun Chlorella is one of our really great sponsors. If you're not taking a chlorella or an algae product, get on one if you're vegan. The chlorella products have B vitamin complexes naturally, and they work really well with, you know, sustainability in your body when you're vegan. The other thing is that I think that years ago there weren't a lot of very good options to eat. That obviously has changed dramatically. So I would say to some of the people, you know, you got to find out what their reason is. But a lot of times it's because they can't find things that they like, cheese, you know, things like that. I mean, chow cheese. Who's doing chow cheese? You guys do chow cheese? Heidi Ho, Heidi Ho. Love Heidi. What did you say, Heidi Ho? If you haven't tried Heidi Ho, they're here, and yeah, well, go eat more. But definitely, there's so many amazing, you know, options now. I think that had a lot to do with some of the people who have come and said, you know, I used to be vegan, you know, 30 years ago, and, you know, probably for about 20 years, but then I wasn't feeling well, and I kind of couldn't find things I like to eat and left it, and, you know, whatever. I think I hear that a lot. Okay, last one. Are we okay?
By the sales guy that came into my work, and he was an ex-vegan. I didn't know how to respond to it, but he said his doctor said he had some sort of like intestinal issue where he couldn't.
It's bullshit. Sorry, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And you know, okay, you used to be compassionate. Was that what you're saying? You used to be compassionate, so you're willing to sacrifice somebody else's life?
The way he explained it to me was that the bacteria in his system.
Enzymes. I don't know. You know, there's 1,000 different. I'm sorry, doc. I'm not gonna eat animals, so you got to help me figure something else out. You know, I mean, that's just such a cop out. It really is. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's so many different, and that person, and I have to end, but that person needs to go and sit with a nutritionist and sit with a natural foodie, you know, and, you know, learn the right way to eat, because that person probably created that problem within himself because he didn't do the right things when he was eating, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, so you're going with a doctor who's telling you not to be compassionate and telling you that the bacteria in your stomach is going to be better if you eat meat. You know.
That's not even supported by science.
Yeah, I mean, cancer in meat is supported by science. I can't tell you how much I love this. Thank you so much for all your questions. It was really fun. I really appreciate it. It took my mind off of being sick for a minute. Just really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.